Hey Buddy Fighters, welcome back to another Buddy Fight video. Today we're doing a deck review for Demonic Descent Sword of the King, Laevateinn, used by Kisetsu from the Chaos 3. Today, we're going to be looking at some of the cards. I'm going to go through every single one and explain as much as I can. There are also rulings for Laevateinn and other stuff, which I might explain a few. But if you want to know about Laevateinn and its rulings, check out Hunter Surge's video. I'll leave a link in the description below, so check that out for Transform and stuff. Anyways, there's a lot of cards from this deck pretty much that I'm missing, so I'm going to be talking about them. I tried to make what I did. For me, that's the fun of deck profiles and stuff. Just trying to make with what you have, not necessarily what you can get in like proper decks. Like Bloody Holy Grail, the Double Rare Searcher, I'm missing those, and Excalibur 2, though Excalibur is kind of debatable. But anyways, let's get into the deck profile. So, I'm going to start with monsters first. First off, I have my discard fodder because I have two cards in the deck that does, in fact, discard. So, I've got one copy of Purgus Algro, 2/1/1. When this card is put from your field or hand into drop zone, put a card from your opponent's gauge into his or her drop zone. So when using Laevateinn's Overkill or your defensive spells, when you discard a card from hand, steal your opponent's gauge. It's just really annoying to your opponent. Gauge control is really nice. Two copies of All-Knowing Valkyrie Alwhittle. Wish I had more copies of this card, but when it's discarded from your hand, gauge and draw, really nice. So you can use Laevateinn's Overkill, gauge and draw, and then scout 5. It's just really nice. So two copies of that. You can also bump it up to 3 if you want. And then I've also got Warrior Emperor Red Arthur from Hero World, Legend World dual card. It's really good because it's got that 5,000 power, 5,000 defense. So your opponent has to get over that 5,000 defense to deal you damage. But you do have to transform into this card before you equip Laevateinn, because of Laevateinn's effect, you cannot call monsters to the field. But still, the fact that you can get double tap for your 4 different hero drop zone is just a pretty awesome card. So, I'd probably say 1 or 2 copies. There's a lot of stuff you can change up with the deck, and it's debatable. Anyways, I'm using this card right here as my proxy for Laevateinn, because I've only got 2 copies. It is called Fabricated Sword of the King, Guardian Replica. I don't like this card because it's 1 gauge, and then on top of Laevateinn's ability for that extra 1 gauge is 2 gauge to equip. So I don't like this card, and I just decided to proxy it. So I got 4 copies of Laevateinn, obviously. You can have the Double Rare Searcher as well, because you can get any Sword of the King, which is really helpful. Pretty sure you guys already know what Laevateinn does. I don't think it really needs to be explained. 10,000 power is really nice. Can't be touched by card effects. Keep in mind, if you do have 2 Laevateins equipped, you get plus 2 gauge for the equip cost for all your items from hand, so do keep that in mind. But you've got 4 copies of Laevateinn right there in the deck. 2 copies of the X Dual Chest Laevateinn version. Watchsword of Auto Deity, Chaos Laevateinn, however you want to say it. 10,000 power, critical 2. The gauge cost of this card's equip cost is reduced by a number of cards in your field. 4 gauge to equip. This card on your field cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects, which is really good. And can attack if you have a monster in your center. Obviously, you're not going to have any monsters on your field. But basically, 10,000 power is really nice, and the fact that it can't be touched by card effects. And by the way, Laevateinn does bring it up to 5 gauge, but you can reduce all that 5 gauge if you have 5 cards on your field. So 2 copies is pretty nice. Not too much, not too little, and make sure you don't get too many in hand. This card is amazing. I feel like this card is the MVP of this deck. Like, it's just amazing. 6/1, 1 life to equip, Blood-Sucking False King. When this card attacks and destroys your opponent's monster or deals damage to your opponent, gauge, gain 2 life. Then if you have 3 or more hero on your field, draw cards. So you get draw, gauge, and life during the attack phase, or your opponent has to respond to this card. So they basically have to deal with this thing, and it's just a really, really good card. And also, its equip cost does not have any gauge, so that's really nice. So 2 copies of that. I would run more if I had it. 2 copies of Divine Sword Galantin, if I said that right. So, 3,000 power, critical 2, counteract, calling Voice of the Sword. During your attack phase, you have 4 different hero in your drop zone. Equip this item from your hand. You can only use calling Voice of the Sword once per turn and equipment change. Now, because it doesn't say you have to pay the gauge cost, the equip cost, which is 1 gauge from Laevateinn, you can equip this card without having to pay that 1 gauge. So pretty much it's a counter equip during your attack phase. So I had to just add more cards in the deck because I didn't have 50 cards in the deck. For some reason, I don't have Holy Grail and other Legend World cards missing. So I've got 2 copies of Galantin. It's just a cool, you can surprise your opponent with that counter equip. 2 copies of Fabricated Sword of the King, Extat Replica. So 5/1, 1 gauge, and the battle this card's have you have 4 different items equipped. For this turn, this card gets double attack. Your double attacker item, 1 crit, help you take down walls with that 5k power. It's just really nice to have. So 2 copies. I have to have 3 copies of this card because apparently I don't have any hunting or 3 crit swords. But I do have a foil version, so I'm running 4 copies of Fabricated Sword of the King, Mistletoe Replica. It's covered by the dot on the sleeve, which is there. 3,000 power, critical 3. That 3 crit, the fact that you can just like mill 2 or 3 of these is just really nice. And just trying to get that high critical and rush your opponent, it works. It's a budget deck. 3 crit is pretty scary sometimes. 1 gauge to equip. Damage dealt to your opponent by this card cannot be reduced if it is attacking alone. So just your 3 crit item in the deck, and it's also a common, so it's really easy to get. So 4 copies right there. 3 copies of Fabricated Sword of the King. Snuggling Replica right here. So when this card attacks, if you have 2 or more hero on your field, top your card of your deck into your gauge. 1000 power, critical 2. It's your simple gauge item in the deck, just so you can get gauge back for your effects during your next turn, during your attack phase, for whatever. So just gauge for the deck and it's an item, 2 crit. Really nice. 3 copies, Snuggling Replica. I probably run other items over this, but I just needed to have enough items in the deck. So I run 3 copies of it. Again, it's really great against Athora, burn damage decks, other stuff like that. 2/2, it's decent stats, 2 critical, it's kind of just there. 2 copies of Fabricated Sword of the King, Almice Replica, 5000 power, critical 1, counteract during attack and drone's turn, you may pay 1 life, put this card from your field and drop zone, you need to nullify the attack. So 2 copies right there, it's kind of just there. With Fabled Sword Sage you can get up to 12k power. The 1 critical is meh, but honestly, I don't like this card too much, but I guess if you just want to have consistent items in your deck and nullifies, it's just there. But a lot of stuff is moving towards, like, stuff and effects that stop attacks from being nullified. So, Chimera Staff, again, I needed cards in the deck, and it's really good for Cycle. With Valkyrie's effect, when you discard a card from hand, if you do draw a card once per turn, so you can discard Valkyrie, you draw a card, then Valkyrie's effect, gauge and draw. And you can also rest it and gauge. So you can't actually equip it off Laevateeinn's Overkill. Problem is, if you get this card in your hand, you equip Laevateinn, it's 2 gauge and 1 life to equip, which is really costly. But it's a really nice cycle card, so it's kind of just there. And you can get your gauge back. So 2 copies of that. 1 copy of Immortal Sword of the King, Durandal. Definitely want to run more of this if you have it, because it protects all your all your heroes from being destroyed, and all of your heroes should be, all of your items should be heroes. So 7,002. 7,000 power is really nice. This card could be your buddy, 1 gauge and 1 life to equip. So it's 2 gauge and 1 life with Laevateinn. Counteract Hand of the King. If you have an item with Sword of the King, this card equipped, equip this card from your hand by paying its equip cost. You only Hand of the King once per turn. All hero in the field cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So you can use its counteract effect to equip it, and then stop your items from being destroyed, or try and get off Laevateeinn's Overkill and protect all your items. Biggest weakness for items is being returned to hand, because Laevateinn and all your stuff can be. This card right here stops your abilities from being nullified, but returning items to hand is a big weakness for Laevateinn, so hopefully that'll get patched up. In the climax, we got Minya's Treasure Chamber, Room of Sword of the King. This card right here is basically your increased power for all heroes, and your hero abilities cannot be nullified. Counteract, choose a hero in your field, may pay 1 gauge to rest this card. If you do, stand the chosen card with 0 power, 0 critical. So it's pretty much just being able to stand, so you have your 3 crit item, stand it for an extra attack, or if any of your items get rested. For example, Sword of the King Excalibur, which I do not have, because apparently it's really popular and it's a really old card, so it's a little bit hard to find. But yeah, Sword of the King Excalibur, definitely something you want in the deck. The problem is it's just really hard to find, so if you can find it, put it in the deck. But yeah, again, this is my budget deck, and stand for your stuff. Now, anyways, getting on to spells. There is the Bloody Holy Grail, which I don't have. Obviously, I don't run it because I don't have it, but it's pretty good. But I prefer this spell right here, just because you don't need to have as many spells in the deck, so you're more consistent with getting items off Overkill and drawing. So I've got Great Spell Wenderstad right here. You only cast this card at the end of the first battle during your opponent's turn. 2 gauge and 2 life, counter the attack phase ends. It's a common from Galaxy Burst. So this card is a lifesaver. I've seen it be used in the toilets. It was in the top deck for New York in the toilet deck. This card saves you against aggro decks like Thunder Emperor's Fangs, Chaos. Even if you're doing mirror matchups, the fact that you can just end their attack phase after their first attack, the cast cost, I understand, 2 gauge and 2 life. It's really costly, but it will save your life against aggro decks, and it's just worth having. So 3 copies. I do have a 4th one, but I basically just decided to have other stuff in the deck as well. Obviously, cards you need in your deck is just more gauge. Heroic Tales, a common from Chaos Control Crisis. You only cast this card if you have 2 more hero on your field. Gauge 4. 4 gauge. You just need it. I only have 3 copies, but you probably want 4. Merlin's Advice, another great gauge and searcher. It's kind of like your Scout 3, like Daryl Burke, and your Size 1 Katana World for Thunder Empire. So you only cast this card if you have a hero on your field. I include your item as well because it's hero attribute. On the top 3 cards of your deck, put up to 1 from among them into your gauge, put up to 1 hero into your hand, and put the rest into your drop zone. So you get increase to your gauge, increase to your hand. It's just a really good spell. Fable of the Sword Sage. It can be draw power, and it can also be power onto for your items. So You only cast this card if you have a hero item equipped. Choosing is one of the following two. You only cast Fable, the Sword Sage, once per turn. You discard a hero from your hand. If you do, draw 2 cards, or for this turn, all hero items in your field get power plus 1000. So you guys either get power buff to all your items to take down walls, or you can just use it for draw power. It's just a really great spell. So there you go. 1 copy. I'd probably run a few more, because obviously you do want that extra draw power, and of course the power as well to take down walls. This card right here, it's Skill General's Insight. Choose one of the following 2. For this turn, give all items you feel penetrate, so your opponent can't protect themselves from the monster in the center. Stops, really helps taking down walls and getting damage straight to your opponent. Counter, put an item from your drop zone, gain 4 life. Help you survive impacts. Just a lot of stuff is becoming like you can't nullify, you can't reduce attacks, so definitely counter gain life is really, really good. So 2 life. 3 copies because I need Gauge, and it's kind of just there. Heroes Base, Castle Camelot. This card, I find, actually works sometimes. Again, when it's a budget deck, I just had to put more cards in. I was like, oh, this card works well in the deck. So, set this card remains the field. During your turn, when a hero monster enters the field, or you equip a hero item, put top card deck into your drop zone, put top card deck in your gauge. You're getting more cards in your drop zone and into your gauge. When this card is destroyed, put up to 1 hero item or Holy Grail from your drop zone into your hand. I don't run any Holy Grails because apparently I don't have any. But the fact that it's, if your opponent tries to destroy it, you get you get an item for your drop zone is really nice as well. And because this remains on your field, you can continuously get that gauge and cards into your drop zone every turn. So, 3 copies of that. 2 copies of Light of Guidance right here. So again, the discard fodder we talked about before, and that I showed earlier, like Valkyrie. Light of Guidance. Discard a card from hand, put the top card deck to your gauge. Next time you beat dealt damage, it just reduces 0. So you can discard a card, steal your opponent's gauge, you gain gauge, reduce, or you can gauge and draw from Valkyrie. So 2 copies right there. 2 copies for Monster Destruction. Unyielding Dignity. I believe that's what it's called. The Ultra Pro Sleeve is called, yeah, Dignity. 1 gauge, choose a hero on your field and destroy monster with power less than or equal to that card's power on your opponent's field. So, Laevateinn, with that base 10,000 power, you can choose a monster in your opponent's field with power equal to or less than 10,000 power. You're pretty much able to destroy anything except for maybe like Battlebots that has like 13 like crazy amounts of power and Gear God, but definitely helps. Again, Gear God can't be destroyed by card effects because of the Chaos Flag, but definitely really good. And this card is a card from the climax of Triple D that I decided to add in because I don't have too many of that stand items. It's basically pay 1 gauge, choose to use one of the following 2. You may only use tap this card once per turn. Pay 2 life if you do, put 2 cards from your drop zone, so from monster field. Obviously, you're not really going to be using that effect. Or stand a hero on your field. So you can stand Laevateinn, stand your 3 crit item, whatever you need in order to get another attack and just finish off your opponent. So it kind of surprises your opponent. You can also draw into this during your battle phase, attack phase from Dental Leaf, where you gain 2 life gauge and draw. So it's just really good. Before I quickly end off, I just want to show some other cards that maybe you can use to, I don't know, try different stuff out, different combos from the deck. So, X-Dual Chest, Arc Hammer Knight Brontes. This card, you'll probably only be using the second effect, but choose an item in your field, pay 1 gauge, discard this card from your hand. If you for this turn, show this card's attack cannot be nullified, attacking alone. This could be really good with cards like, let's say for example, Sword of the King Excalibur. Like let's say against Thunder Emperor's Fang, you know that a lot of their stuff is just nullifies, so you can use this on your item. That item's attack for this turn can't be nullified, which is really nice if it's attacking alone. So the King's Joyeux is you can grab your items from your drop zone. So with this card attacks, choose a hero item from your drop zone, pay 1 gauge, discard card from hand. If you do, put your chosen cards in your hand. So maybe you want to try out different stuff, try and get your heroes back from your drop zone, maybe got destroyed, or maybe you mailed it off of Camelot's Castle, and then you've got your 2 gauge nullify your spell from Dungeon World, which is, sorry, not Dungeon World, Legend World, which is an old card. So that's pretty much it from me, guys. Happy New Year's. I forgot to mention that at the start of the video, but it's not January 1st for me yet. But Happy New Year's to all of you guys. Hopefully, wish you guys the best for this year and the next year to come, 2018. So, thank you guys so much for the amazing support you've shown for the channel and just for Buddyfight this whole year. So, thank you guys so much, and keep on buddy fighting. Have a great day.